Fantasy football is all about hitting it big, and in this video I've got 6 candidates that I think are going to break out in 2025. Some of them are incredibly young, some of them really disappointed last year, but they are all available much cheaper right now than they will be after the 2025 season. If you enjoy this content, please consider liking and subscribing, but let's get into the first big name breakout candidate. Marvin Harrison Jr.'s rookie season felt incredibly disappointing, but when you actually take a look at the numbers, it shows huge signs of future success. He saw 116 targets for 885 yards and 8 touchdowns. Now, unfortunately, his catch rate was actually relatively low, catching only just over 60 of those 115 targets. But this is a huge sign for future success. Marvin Harrison Jr. finished as the wide receiver 30 in PPR leagues in his rookie season. Now, this normally would be kind of okay for a rookie if it weren't for 2 things. First of all, the 2 rookies being drafted after him finished as top 10 wide receivers in their rookie seasons and 2 of the best rookie wide receiver seasons of all time in Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. was seen as the generational prospect. He was the guy who was going to come in and completely blow up fantasy football, which led to him being drafted at the wide receiver 9 slot just in his rookie season. He was going towards the back of the first end in redraft leagues. This was basically a price he was never going to be able to beat. The season beforehand, Puka Nacua had broken the rookie receptions record and still only finished as the wide receiver 7. So it was very unlikely MHJ was ever going to actually perform to this cost. MHJ has massively bulked up this offseason, and having seen the way it's not worked in 2024, you can guarantee the Cardinals will be making some changes to be able to use him on more of the crossing routes and vertical and horizontal routes that he is better at in 2025. They made no additions to the wide receiver core, which shows they are happy going into the season again with MHG as their wide receiver 1, but he is still available much cheaper in both Dynasty and Redraft than he should be. This is someone you have to go and target, whether it's buying them in Dynasty or just drafting him in the 4th round of your redraft leagues and letting the generational prospect break out on your team. Staying in Arizona for my second pick, and it is another rookie. Now, Trey Benson was one of my favorite running backs to come out in the 2024 draft class. But basically, if you drafted any running back that wasn't Bucky Irving, you were disappointed with how it turned out. Trey Benson finished as the running back 70 in his first season, barely seeing any workload, with James Conner just taking essentially 100% of carries every single game. And James Conner has been someone that I think you should go out and buy in Dynasty because I think there's a chance they do the same this season. But they very notably didn't dip into the running back well in the draft just gone. The Cardinals went almost entirely defensive with their draft, which shows they're happy with the personnel they have at skill positions and across their offense. James Conner isn't getting any younger, and I know I've just made an argument for you to buy him, but if he were to get an injury, Trey Benson has the skills to be a 3-down back in the NFL. Now, he's not to the same level as Conner, particularly as a pass catcher, but Trey Benson as a rusher averaged 4.8 yards per carry in his rookie season, which is a really solid number. If James Conner were to go down, Trey Benson would suddenly explode as the bell cow back in this offense with an improved offensive line. Now, there is a chance that Conner doesn't get injured, but if you look across the last few years, there's pretty much always a chance that James Conner gets injured. So Trey Benson is available at a huge discount right now. I am delighted to have cracked 500 subscribers on my channel, but only 10% of people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. So if we do some quick math there, I don't know, 5,000 people are watching videos. I'm not particularly good at maths, but basically what I'm saying is please consider subscribing to the channel, like this video. There is so much content available and I want you to be a part of it. Isaiah Likely opened the 2024 season with 9 receptions for 111 yards and a touchdown against the Chiefs, and we all thought this was the start of the breakout. Mark Andrews was aging, Likely was the more explosive player and the much better athlete. This was time for it to happen. It kind of did for the first half of the season, with Mark Andrews barely seeing any playing time, but as we got down the stretch, Andrews became part of the offense more and more, until eventually his drop in the playoffs saw the Ravens get eliminated. Isaiah Likely has always been the better athlete and the better deep threat at the tight end position, even if Andrews has the more safe hands in theory, and is the better red zone threat. But I think that this is the season that Isaiah Likely truly becomes the tight end one in this offense. And there are a lot of targets available because they didn't really go and improve the receiving core at all. Bringing in DeAndre Hopkins, who, as we've seen from his last 2 stops in Tennessee and Kansas City, is no longer the same player that Nuke once was. Mark Andrews also has ended up reaffirming his commitment to the team. The Ravens have said that they've decided to keep him, but it is quite clear if you pay attention that they were looking to either trade or cut him this offseason, but ultimately decided to just keep him with the team for the next year. But I think they want Isaiah Likely to be one of the focal points of this offense, and I think they see him as their future tight end one. Likely feels like he's been in the league for a while, but is still only 25 and is at the right kind of age for a tight end to fully break out. I think this is someone you need to be targeting as your tight end one this offseason, and he's someone I've been picking up everywhere I can. From one tight end to another, and Brenton Strange is a real dark horse to break out in 2025. He is only going into his 3rd season in the NFL, and I knew that I recognized his name from somewhere when he kind of broke out last season, and I remember that draft where there was Sam Laporta and a few other tight ends taken in the 2nd round, and then the Jags were the last person to take a tight end, and it was Brenton Strange, and I remember watching and going, I don't think I've ever heard that name before, but that's who Brenton Strange is. He is an incredible athlete at the tight end position out of Penn State, which is normally a good place for producing tight ends, and he produced incredibly well last season when Evan Engram was injured. Well enough that the team decided to then move on from Evan Engram and to roll into the season with Brenton Strange as their tight end one. GM James Gladstone openly came out at the end of the season and said, we are going to be getting Brenton Strange more involved next season. And when you look across this receiving core, yes, they've obviously brought in Travis Hunter, they have Brian Thomas Jr., but in terms of the tight end depth chart, it is basically just Strange. He is the only one to offer real physicality and real size, as well as a safe pair of hands underneath, which is something that I think is a crucial part of this offense. We've seen Cade Otton consistently get targets in games under Liam Cohen in Tampa Bay, and Brenton Strange is guaranteed for the same in Jacksonville this year. Now, he is going completely under the radar, being drafted in most leagues around the tight end 25, and in dynasty startups, sometimes making it all the way into the 15th round. This is someone that I think you should be picking up, and you can basically do it for free. Cedric Tillman for the Cleveland Browns was basically a non-factor for the first 6 games of last season. Then the next 3 games, he finished as a top 10 wide receiver with double-digit targets in all 3 games, then got a concussion and was never seen again. It was a very strange season for him where it seemed like he was about to break out, but then things really didn't fall into place. The Browns' depth chart at wide receiver is incredibly murky, with Jerry Jeudy very clearly at the top, but they have ended up moving on from the other wide receiver options on this team, namely Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore. They brought in Deontay Johnson, but Deontay Johnson has really bounced around the last few years, particularly in the AFC North, actually. You can guarantee he's going to be a Bengal at some point to just complete that set. Deontay Johnson is obviously not a huge threat for targets, is not even really a huge threat for staying on the field. The Browns did actually get an upgrade at quarterback this last offseason. You can maybe consider they got a few options at quarterback, and Cedric Tillman is someone that I really like as a power slot option and someone who can handle a quite consistent workload, as well as being able to win on the outside. Cedric Tillman was drafted out of Tennessee a few years ago, and he's one of the only players out of that Tennessee system to actually make it work in the NFL, and he was drafted in the third round. He is a really exciting prospect going into this next season and is someone that with a murky depth chart and with a definite upgrade, whether that's Joe Flacco or whether that's one of the rookies winning the job in Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, there are going to be target volume going around in this offense. And I think Cedric Tillman, if he can stay healthy, is going to be a huge benefactor of that. Now, it wouldn't be one of my videos this offseason if I didn't talk about New England Patriots quarterback Drake Maye. Drake Maye is probably the biggest breakout candidate for the 2025 season, with an incredibly improved offensive line, receiving core, and one of the best running back in the draft behind him. Now, for Drake Maye, he also now has Josh McDaniel brought in and a much more inspirational head coach in Mike Vrabel. The chips are really all falling into place for Drake Maye to succeed. Those two tackle bookends are going to be a huge benefit for him, and having actual wide receivers now in Stephon Diggs and Kyle Williams, as opposed to Kendrick Bourne and Kayshon Boutte as your wide receiver 1 and 2, and a huge threat out of the backfield in Travion Henderson, who is the best pass protecting back in the class as well. It is wheeled up for Drake Maye, and he is someone that you have to be targeting. I am happy to have him as my QB1 in redraft. Maybe I will target someone a little bit safer with a higher floor like a Jared Goff as my QB2. But wow, if it's going to happen for Drake Maye, it needs to happen this season. He has seen a huge upgrade to that situation.